Enjoying yourself at the wedding? Yeah, you're okay for me to do this, yeah?
Yeah.
And I can send you the extracts if you want to, like some of them, yeah? I said, have you enjoyed yourself at the wedding? And he says, yeah, it's all the same. It's all the same, he says. I said, okay. I said, let me say something. Every wedding we do is different here. Every single one is different. There's always going to be a different dynamics of the wedding and the way it goes, or a party and the way it flows from the start to the finish. Yes, you'll have your starters, you'll have the mains, and you'll have your... But it's always different with the way people communicate with each other. And he stood there, Mr. Singh, and he looked at me. And he goes, "You're actually right, you are." He said, because, no, he didn't realise what he was saying in the first place. He says, "You're actually right, you are." Because he connected with me, and he says, this is on a unconscious level. He says, "You're right, you are," because I went to a wedding in London, and somebody said to me whilst I was there, "The food you have here is going to be so much more different. The food you have here is going to be different to anywhere else in the Midlands where you may have been at the wedding." And he goes, "I ate the food and I really thought about it, and the food was so different. It was so different." He said there was something, it was delicious, you know. But he says, "So you're right." He said, "You're right, Mr. Chopra. Every wedding is different. Everything's different." And you know, scenarios, I'm paralleling that with your scenarios. You could have two people square up. You could have two people shouting at each other. You could have one sister produces a knife on another sister, as we mentioned last week, and decides to, I don't want to kill her, but I'm just going to stab. You could have a very minor situation that could become very fatal.
Yeah.
You know, so every scenario, and people say when we talk about security and we talk about, you know, you being in a high risk environment, every scenario is different. Me personally, I never say I've done it before, because you don't know how it's going to end up. You don't know what the person's going to say. And thinking about PI, that's why I say to everybody, it carries risks to all staff and customers. That's why I don't say it carries risks for the customer, but it carries risks to all staff and customers. Now, from your angle, from your perception and your duty, you have a duty of care. Write this down. You have a duty of care to look after every customer. That's your duty of care, that is. You must look after every customer. You have a duty of care to reassure them. You have a duty of care to introduce yourself. You have a duty of care to explain what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And unless you've done that, if you don't explain what you're doing and why you're doing it, guess what? The person you are communicating with is not going to understand, and therefore it could cause an escalation of violence. Yeah? Are we okay and clear with that? All right, great. Now,